Hello, everyone out there, wherever you are. This is an amazing moment. Who would have ever thought that we would be having a virtual European convention through the internet? I'm standing right here in the atrium of our beautiful global headquarters. I'm sure this looks familiar to some of you because you've been here. For those of you who haven't been here, I hope you have that opportunity very soon. When we decided to have a virtual international convention, it seemed like every step took us into the unknown, but with grand possibilities. The ideas were new, the challenges thought-provoking, the innovation exciting, and the creativity was truly inspiring. When I first walked into the studio, I was awed by the beauty of the stage that took me back many years ago to my days behind the curtains in the opera houses of Europe. But this time, there were cables on the floor, twinkling lights everywhere, and so many massive movie-like cameras. As I stood on stage, singing to such beautiful music, mesmerized by the lights swirling around me, and watching the amazing two-piano performance of Jacob and Joseph, it felt like a moment of magical bliss. It was like a movie, but a different kind of a movie, with the world of technology staring me in the face that added a whole new dimension to my knowledge of the performing world. I did not preview anything and relied on the skills of those directing to make this beautiful experience for all of us. I watched with anticipation with all of you and thousands of members from around the world, and I was thrilled with our new virtual international convention. The official number of people who watched convention in June was over 210,000. Compared to last year, sales doubled, donations to the foundation doubled, and the number of new enrollees tripled. We went into the unknown with anticipation and excitement, which proved to be a fabulous success. So many more were able to hear the Young Living message in the comfort of their homes and didn't have to spend time and money on travel. Nothing can take the place of all the laughter and hugging and the immense exchange of energy that comes when we are all together. And surely we'll be together again. But how amazing is it that the technology of today has made it possible for us to be together virtually? That really sounds strange, but it works. And because it works, we were able to bring our members from the far corners of the earth together to share our love and friendship as a family united with one vision and one purpose: to take our mission to the world. Last year's convention in Brussels was so much fun, and the boys and I were really looking forward to being with you again. I love the flair of different countries, cultures, and languages coming together, and I know we'll have that opportunity again. Europe feels like a second home to me, having lived there for 7 years. I was only 19 when I flew out of Salt Lake, not knowing how my life was going to change. I first studied French in Lausanne, and because of my love of adventure, I traveled as far as Beirut, Lebanon, where I became a stewardess for Middle East Airlines. It was fun for a short time, but my dream was to study music, opera, and so I finally made it to Vienna. A year later, my father bought me a little Volkswagen Bug, and so when my sister came to visit, we hitchhiked to Wolfsburg, Germany, to the factory where we picked up the car. With a new set of wheels, we headed straight for Berlin and drove into East Germany. That was truly an awakening experience. Whenever there was a break from school, I traveled to some new city from country to country and even to England, always wanting to explore and discover something new. I remember sitting on the grass at Stonehenge eating bread with tomatoes and cheese, often our daily meal. I saw my first Aida in the Baths of Caracalla in Rome. my first and only bullfight in Madrid. Marveled at Neuschwanstein. Sang a performance with Austrian radio in Dubrovnik. Enjoyed the Opera Tosca in Sofia. And Rusalka in Prague, Czechoslovakia. That was a great time in my life. And just as my singing career was getting started, I returned home without a reason, except for the overpowering feeling I had. Besides that, living in my parents' home without much income didn't make any sense then. As I stand here today, I can look back in awe, for surely there was an unseen force directing my life. But we carry our memories forever, and always when I think of Europe, my heart goes to the song, Wien, Wien, nur du allein. And the last line, Dort, wo ich glücklich und selig bin, ist Wien, mein Wien. Ich liebe Deutsch und dazu Wienerisch und freue mich so, wenn ich Deutsch sprechen kann. Es war so erstaunlich für mich, als Young Living in Österreich zu wachsen begann und Gary gebeten wurde, zu kommen und zu sprechen. Ich konnte kaum glauben, dass ich aus einem so anderen Grund zu meinem Wien zurückkehrte. Als Student war es nie möglich, in einem schönen Hotel zu übernachten und eine vollständige Mahlzeit zu essen. Ich war so glücklich, Gary das Studentenwohnheim zu zeigen, in dem ich lebte, und die Akademie, wo ich meinen Schulabschluss machte, und das Open House, in dem ich Nacht für Nacht in meiner Musikwelt verbracht habe. Ich habe wenig Möglichkeit, in Utah viel zu sprechen. Und wenn ich weiß, dass ich nach Europa gehen werde, schaue ich mir einige meiner Filme auf Deutsch an, um mir Wörter zurückzugeben, nämlich die Sisi auf Wiener. Ich spreche nicht mehr dasselbe und habe viel vergessen, aber ich liebe es immer noch, mit euch zusammen zu sein und mich so gut ich kann zu unterhalten. Pero tengo un otro problema. ¿Problema? No, pero sí. Viví en Ecuador para casi la misma cantidad de tiempo. Pero Gary está construyendo la granja, por lo que mi vocabulario es un poco diferente. Los niños y yo todavía hablamos bastante español en casa. Y Joseph está en internet con sus amigas ecuatorianas todas las semanas. Entonces, si cuando hablo alemán y no sé español sale de mi boca. Luego, después de varias horas, me confundo y no sé qué idioma estoy hablando. Y al fin del día me tengo dolor de cabeza. But I love it all, German or Spanish, and the words of many other languages. I'm always sad when I visit different countries where I don't speak any of the language and have to have a translator. Yes, translation works. But one thing that really helps is that in Young Living, we speak the same emotional language. When we focus on our mission and our purpose, our bond becomes even stronger. I am very connected to you because of who you are, not because of language or culture, but because I feel your energy and your love, and that brings peace and happiness to everyone. When I heard that Kristen had decided to do a virtual convention, I knew she was feeling the same thing, a desire to bring you all together, all of you who are under her leadership, because I know how dedicated she is to helping you be successful. It is fabulous to see how Europe is growing with so many dedicated leaders. Kristen often sends me stories of your accomplishments, which are so rewarding for us to hear about. I love your emails personally, and I'm thrilled about your success. The opportunity is unlimited, as are the challenges because of the diversity and complexity of Europe. But you are all doing it. You are making it happen. And we in the office are cheering you on and looking for the time when we can be with you to celebrate your success. Kristen had the opportunity to know and work with Gary and kind of see him in action. It warms my heart how she remembers him to all of you who never had that opportunity. It's because of Gary and his tremendous vision and sacrifice that Young Living exists today. Because of the terrible logging accident that Gary had when he was 24 years old, leaving him confined to a wheelchair, he determined he would get out of the wheelchair or get out of life. His third attempt to end his own life was when he tried to starve himself to death, but instead it created an unexpected physical response, which led to a medical miracle. His indomitable spirit took him out of the wheelchair and down an unknown path of discovery. Suffering with tremendous pain through 13 years of learning to walk again without assistance and him for the rest of his life, he came to an absolute knowing that a nutritionally fed body and a clean environment were the keys to health and a strong immune system. This statement has been a powerful message for people all over the world who are looking for something better than the fast foods of our chemically overloaded society. Do we have some of those answers? I can only imagine what you are thinking and saying. Young Living is growing dramatically, and it is truly astounding to think that our growth is because of our products, Gary's products, some that he formulated 35 years ago. Gary spent 7 years in his research clinic in Mexico studying the human body. Nutrition was most important to him, and he knew that the overprocessed, nutritionally dead food that is so prevalent today could never sustain life. When he discovered essential oils in 1985 and began conducting research, a whole new world opened for him, and he immersed himself in his discoveries. Gary thought that because essential oils are the living liquid in the plants, then surely they would enhance the benefits of dried herbs. So he started experimenting by mixing essential oils into ground-up herb powder. Naturally, everyone thought he was crazy, but again, he had a knowing that kept him experimenting until he got it right. Gary was the first in the world to put essential oils into food supplements. And today, so many different products, from food to soap to cleaning supplies that you can buy in the stores, are laced with essential oils. Laced? That means you might find essential oils written on the label. But what really is in there? What are you really buying? We all know that the probability of these products containing a pure oil is not high. They may contain a composite or simply a synthetic oil, but we know who they copied and where the idea began. Many of you in our audience have been to one or perhaps more of our farms somewhere in the world. You have helped in the planting, the harvesting, and the distilling, and have been part of our seed-to-seal process, and you know what it takes to produce a pure oil. How fabulous is it that 2 of our farms are located here in Europe, one in France and the other in Croatia, and that you have the opportunity to visit them. I hope you take advantage of what you have and go see for yourself. And believe me, those who run those farms and distilleries are very proud of what they have, and they welcome you to come. It has often been stated by members who have helped on the farms that once you have been a part of the production, you know that Young Living doesn't charge enough for that little bottle of oil. Throughout Gary's 7 years of research, from 1981 to 1988, he saw their vast benefit and came to the conclusion that essential oils belong to the world. I'm here because Gary came to that conclusion, which became his mission, from which he never wavered. From the time he sold his clinic, for the rest of his life, he relentlessly pursued his goal. Gary never formulated a product for profit, only for a purpose, one that would benefit the human body. You can be certain that whichever Young Living product you use, those products were formulated for your well-being. That doesn't mean there won't be changes to our products. One thing for certain in life is that life will always be changing and evolving. New ingredients are discovered. The needs of the body change with time. New combinations work even better. Gary was always looking for ways to improve our supplements and make them even better. Building and strengthening the body is the most important thing that we can do. And we can do this with good, nutritious food, with clean water and air, and by creating an environment of cleanliness and protection with what Mother Nature has given us. Change your diet, change what you eat, drink pure water, purify the air you breathe at home, clean up your environment, your home, your office, get rid of the chemicals, the toxic substances. I hope that you all have my book, D. Gary Young, the world leader in essential oils. This is your encyclopedia of Young Living's foundation, the farms. In the early years, I would often hear people say things that were all mixed up with the facts. I just knew that I had to write our history, and ever-increasing history that we were making all over the world, not for selling essential oils, but for the production of them. And why? Who would go to the work to develop a farm just to produce an essential oil that they could easily buy from a grower or broker somewhere in the world? Every word in this book is true. Gary was so colorful and so adventurous that I didn't have to make anything up. I've been asking for this book to be translated for so many years, and finally, it's happened. Your French farm, your farm in Croatia. It's hard to believe that one man could accomplish so much, but it's all in writing, and the pictures are there to bring this magnificent story to life. Gary was a creative genius and had all the talents that it took to bring his dream to reality. The reason I can say this is because I stood by his side as his wife, and I watched the many facets of his mind come together in his determination to prove to the world that he could do it. Can't was not in his vocabulary. Neither was slow down. He was driven to bring his knowledge into a reality that could benefit all of us. Gary knew that the purity and the highest quality were the criteria for having the benefits he needed to heal and rebuild his body from his terrible accident. And that desire became his discovery, which ultimately became the gift of Mother Nature to the world. As many of you know, Gary had visions and a knowing that reached beyond what many of us are able to easily understand. While he was in our world, he formulated many amazing products, and his passion for formulation was rooted in his astounding experiences and wisdom with essential oils from his precious plant kingdom. The very plants he so dearly loved to grow during his time on this earth enhance and support our lives in ways that we are still discovering. Some physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual blessings come to us from these plants and the essential oils they produce, of which Young Living is the steward in our world. Gary definitely had more insight and was more aware, more in tune, and more developed, and I think lived with a higher frequency than most of us. What does that mean? I guess that depends on what you understand about frequency. So I'll simply leave that up to your interpretation. Gary was often deep in thought and seemed removed from the confusion and noise of this world. He was the happiest in the mountains, in God's living room, as he called it. He would often saddle his horse and ride up into the mountains behind our house, where the communication was clear. At least that's what he said to me. When he came back a few hours later, he was refreshed, filled with new ideas, and excited to go forward. Gary's ability to create powerful blends never ceased to amaze all of us. He often talked about many new formulas that he wanted to share. Gary had his own little lab in our studio on the top floor of our house, where he had all kinds of oils that he would mix and test. I have many little bottles with his handwritten ingredients on them. They were rarely named, but he had written a couple of key words on them indicating his intention. There were a few that he said he would like to introduce into Young Living when it was the right time. I often looked through them with curiosity, wondering what ones our members would like. Gary loved the earth, and he knew from experience and in his soul that if the plants were to go, then we would go. He understood how important the plants were with their life-giving purpose for all living things, and often prayed over his crops. So many times I walked with him through the fields, and I could tell that even though we were together holding hands, he was silently connecting to an unseen power. Many members close to Gary saw him deep in thought this same way. Gary and I were constantly together in so many different situations, discussing many different things, and rarely did we disagree on anything. There is much talk these days about strengthening ourselves emotionally and increasing our spiritual connection. Connection to what? Our inner self? A higher power? Someone not with us? Another world? What does that all mean? There could be many different answers. Whatever the answer is, I believe that we all want to find inspiration and direction for our lives. I remember Gary's story about Mr. Henry Viau, who was considered the father of distillation in France, in Provence, about 40 years ago. Gary had waited 5 years for an interview, hoping he might be able to study with this great man. Jean-Noël Landel, who was Gary's partner, invited Mr. Viau for dinner, and he and Jean-Noël talked French all evening, while Gary, sitting next to this man in hopes of having a conversation, spent the entire evening speaking English with Jane, Jean-Noël's wife. Just before leaving, Mr. Viau turned to Gary and in perfect English asked, "So, Mr. Young, what do you think about essential oils?" Gary told me that he was so surprised he didn't have time to think of a response, and without hesitation, he just blurted out, "I believe that essential oils are the closest, most tangible substance to God on earth." Mr. shook his finger in Gary's face and spoke as if talking to a very large audience. "You are right, and any man who adulterates them should be treated like a criminal." Stood up, thanked Jane for dinner, and left. That was the beginning of many visits, many days and weeks that Gary spent with Mr. Viau on his mountain, learning the art of distillation. I can imagine that both Jean-Noel and Jane have big smiles on their faces as they remember those early days. These two people, who I know miss Gary immensely, lived through those early years with Gary, with his many trials and challenges, with little money, and wanting to learn everything he could from the Frenchmen, who didn't want to share their secrets with this American cowboy. But how they came to love and respect him is such an amazing story, which is all written in my book. Now that Jean-Noel has retired, I hope he'll find time to write the history that he and Gary made together. The baby in the backpack that you see in the picture, who followed in his father's footsteps and was mentored by Gary, is now our farm manager and is loved by all those who know him. How blessed we are to have Nicolas Landel carry the banner for the farm in France. When you visit the farm, Nicolas will probably be there to greet you, along with Jean-Marie, the manager of the fields and distillation, and possibly Benoit, the president of the French Lavender Association, who loves to be a part of all the excitement. Zoran, our Young Living manager in Split, Croatia, has a very different and unusual story about his journey into our Young Living family. Surely he stood in amazement as he watched Gary build the distillery in 19 days. Dominique, our farm manager, was almost in disbelief when Gary told him how much to expand the farm. How many acres? But Dominique caught Gary's vision and made it happen, and everyone has such a great experience when they visit the farm, besides enjoying the magnificent beauty of this country. Dominique and I discovered we could communicate speaking German. Their history with Gary is also written in my book. Croatia has become a very important part of our Young Living oil production, and helichrysum is one of my favorite oils. And were it not for Gary's vision, supply could have become very scarce today. I can't emphasize what a great opportunity you have in this part of the world to have these two beautiful farms that welcome you to come and be a part of the excitement and put plants in the ground or watch the oil drops bubble up in the separator. There's been a lot of excitement around the new blend, Gary's Light. Kristen asked if I would tell you about it, which was one of my favorite parts of convention. I've had some amazing experiences over the past few months, and I feel Gary's presence, which seems to be getting stronger. Because he and I thought so much alike, I don't know if I'm hearing his words or my own words in my head. His words, my thoughts. His inspiration, my feelings. His guidance, they all blend together. It is such an unusual feeling that fills my soul with an unusual knowing, which has been a fascinating journey for me. As I was looking at the oils where Gary spent time in our studio, the feeling came to me that this was the right time for this new blend. I was fascinated with the oils that came to my mind, to see that so many of them have an ancient history of uses. The combination of oils has so many different constituents that support different physical and emotional needs. It is perfectly balanced. The aroma is so smooth and elegant that there is no mistake that this is Gary's formula. A formula to bring more light for greater understanding, awareness of truth, and discernment as we move forward into the unknown. Surely a need that we all have at this time on our planet. You will feel something very special with this blend, especially now. 2 years after Gary's passing. It may bring memories. It may bring hope. It may give courage, or even make you feel grounded and protected. I'm told that Gary's Light will launch in Europe around Easter time next year. But I'll see if I can make some noise. Exactly what you will feel? I don't know. But I do believe you will be uplifted and your heart will be filled with joy and peace. These are the wonderful oils in this blend: hyssop, boswellia sacra, myrrh, cistus, dorado azul, eucalyptus radiata, lemongrass, petitgrain, cinnamon. This blend is very much a companion to thieves and purification. This arsenal of oils is something that Gary has had for a long time. Some of these oils have an historical background that relate to some of our needs today, while others have different compounds that target other specific needs. I was quite amazed as some of the oils took me back to ancient times, especially the story of hyssop with Moses and the Israelites as they anticipated the avenging angel that was to come upon Pharaoh and the Egyptians. You might find your own research very fascinating and revealing. Myrrh has centuries of stories and how it was used, especially on the ancient camel caravan trails, as described in Gary's book, The One Gift. Besides being a very engaging adventure, it is also quite an educational read. Myrrh is very smooth on the skin, so I started putting it on my face at night. That very same week, when I started to get ready for bed, Gary said, "Mary, please don't wear myrrh at night." "Why?" "Would you like smelling dirty socks all night?" Well, I love the smell of myrrh, vetiver, valerian, and all the musty smelling oils. But Gary preferred that I not use them at night, so I kind of got away from using myrrh. However, Gary had a lot of fun telling his audiences that myrrh was great as a natural product for birth control. Then he would look over at me and laugh along with everyone else. Regardless, myrrh is fabulous on the skin, besides all of its other great benefits. Cistus is also a plant with much history that has both physical and emotional application. These oils are a concentration of history that you will have to explore. Dorado azul was a bit of a surprise to me, but it shouldn't have been because this is such a wonderful oil. However, because it is relatively new, many members have yet to discover its benefits. I would like to share with you a story of how we came across Dorado azul. One day in the early development of the Ecuador farm, Gary and I were walking down the dirt road that he had just cut through the brush. He was always running his hand over the branches and twigs and smelling the flowers and the leaves. Dorado azul was basically a weed that grew everywhere. As Gary smelled it, he became very excited, and so he gathered up a bag full of plant material, which we distilled. This bag of plant material produced just a few drops of oil, which Gary quickly sent off to Utah to be analyzed. When the report came back, he announced that this was going to be a new oil for Young Living. It is a very powerful oil, and when you smell it, you can feel a grounded strength coming from the earth that travels up through your body and seems to dance in your head. You might want to wear it while you're dancing and see what you experience. Kristen told me that during a visit to our ranch, high in the Utah mountains a few winters ago, she wasn't feeling very well. And coming from Australia, she wasn't used to the freezing cold and snow. So Gary recommended diffusing Dorado azul and eucalyptus blue. Kristen tells me this is still her go-to diffusing blend in the winter, all these years later, and she tells everyone about it. We all know the stories of eucalyptus radiata, lemongrass, and cinnamon, and the many benefits they have. I think we understand most of these oils and their uses. But the oil of petitgrain was a mystery to me. Why would this be in the formula? Gary often used this oil, but I was unfamiliar with it, and I didn't know much about it. Perhaps the newer oils are there to enhance the action of the other oils. It's like bringing knowledge of the ancient world and blending it with the science of today. The compounds in Gary's light open the mind to greater awareness as you do your own research. I think you will be amazed at the timeless benefits of these oils. The aroma is exquisite and so smooth, like the other beautiful blends that we have. I don't know how many of you watched convention in June, but when I first heard the music, I felt like I was with the angels. It was so elevating to my spirit. Then I read the words and started putting them to the music. Lyle Moore, the composer, wrote both the words and the music, which he titled, "We Are One." And he didn't know that one was our convention theme. I hope you have the opportunity to experience his creation as it so beautifully expresses the young living heartbeat. In our hearts, we hear the call. What call? A call for help, of gratitude, of love? Feel the wonder of it all. Wonder? Yes, the wonder of young living and what we have become. This day hear us say, we are one. One? One mission, one purpose, one voice. We are many ones that serve God's children to create a better world. Gary and I were one. We are still one. Our family is one. One heart, one mind, one message. One message? Yes, the message of freedom, the right to choose. What I define as my success may be completely different from how you define your success, which comes back again to having the right to choose, the freedom to choose. Do you choose to be one with Young Living? Do you choose to be one with the Young Living family? Or do you choose to keep yourself apart? Because of perceived vast differences of cultures and customs, it is easy to look outside ourselves for answers, blame others, and not be responsible for our own actions. Now is the perfect time to really pay attention and learn more about what the oils are. They are not one-dimensional. They are not just a means of earning money. They are so much more than that. They are nature's living energy, the plants that contain what many call the essence of God, or the essence of the Creator. And by using that pure, unadulterated essence, how might that help us in our search for greater enlightenment, or even bring about changes in the way we never expected? As we have grown, more and more people have made discoveries and come to an understanding that there is spiritual and emotional strength gained through using the oils. What you believe and how you use the oils is your own personal experience that no one can take from you. If oils do nothing more than help us get in touch with ourselves, our inner child, by increasing our awareness, then we have been benefited greatly. Does that give you an idea why Gary formulated the blend, Inner Child? Yes, to connect with our inner being, to connect with or rediscover who we are. If you use the oils with the intention of connecting with your inner self and finding answers for your own understanding, both physically and emotionally, a new awareness may come to your mind to solve challenges and move forward with hope and reassurance. These last few months have turned our world upside down. There is so much anger, hatred, contention, abuse, and violence that has brought so much unhappiness, misery, and grief. What happened to the golden rule? What happened to loving and caring about each other? It's not God's way, and it certainly isn't my way or the Young Living way. But out of all that chaos, something most unusual has happened to Young Living. We couldn't travel. We couldn't meet. We were told to stay home, which meant no school, no work, no socializing, no touching, covering your face, and not doing anything unless absolutely necessary. And what was necessary was to be determined by management or the government. What a world in which to live with such harsh rules. Then Zoom started happening. I thought, what's Zoom? Whose idea was this? How did Zoom come into our world? It's not my way of communicating. Or at least it wasn't. Today's technology has created a miracle, a whole new way of life. And out of that, our Young Living family has become even stronger. Members are reaching out to each other and looking down into their organizations to contact people. Thought it would be fun for you to hear it as Gary's for assistance, help, and reassurance are no different than the examples today. In 1995, we were before. In December 1995, Gary gave a presentation with a very powerful vision for all of us. So we thought it would be fun for you to hear it as Gary said it. The examples then are no different than the examples today. In 1995, we were fighting to be recognized for our value to the world. Today, our value is recognized. And so many want what we have. They copy and plagiarize, but that doesn't change who we are. The greatest compliment anyone can be given is to be copied. Gary always said, know who you are. This is a critical time in our world, a time to look inside yourself and know that you are an important part of this great mission. The healthier you are, the stronger your physical and emotional well-being will become, giving you the strength to reach for the stars and achieve your highest potential. One of Gary's favorite blends that he wore every day. We are moving into a new awakening, a time to get in touch with ourselves, discover our purpose and what is really important. Our message is to take our essential oils, our gift from Mother Nature, to the world. I have a deep belief that the people of this world need the tools that we have to help them through this time of uncertainty, grief, loss, and despair. Living in the unknown creates fear, contention, anxiety, and can block one from moving forward. Just think about the essence of the oils, how they touch the soul and uplift the spirit. Think of the historical uses of frankincense and so many of the ancient oils. Wouldn't it be worth it to give the oils a try? And you don't have to know anything to have an experience. The oils have their own personality and will give you a story to tell, whether you are expecting one or not. As one individual, one family, one group, one organization, a community of many countries, we are united as one to change the world, to lift the burden of others, to be of service, and to share an opportunity with a message of hope, health, well-being, and success. Today, Gary would say, I want my Young Living family to be strong and healthy and lead the way into this new dimension of our lives as we recover and rebuild from the misery and destruction that so many have experienced. Let us open our hearts and be guided by the light of love and hope that burns within each of our souls. I believe that Gary is with us, watching over us, putting thoughts and ideas into our heads to help us be positive and make life better. I feel his presence every day, and believe me, his energy is very strong, leading us forward. I feel the power of oneness, as if I can feel your energy from wherever you are. We are over 6 million strong and growing. If together we put out positive energy, envisioning a positive outcome, how powerful are we in manifesting what we desire? You come from many different walks of life with so many cultural differences and ideas, but we are still the same family, and our mission is the same. Let us embrace each other, see only the best, forgive and express love, and have gratitude for our knowledge and for the opportunity we have to serve. And know that our Young Living family is a beacon of light for truth and a powerful force for good in the world. The realization of Gary's vision for all of us. I love you.